I often talk to collectors and they ask me, the America Roadster, how important is it in the Porsche storyline and the hierarchy? And I say, well, the America Roadster is the beginning of the Porsche success story. The America Roadster is a deep cut into Porsche history because Porsche never formally cataloged the car. There's not much known about it.
It's considered by historians to be an enigma. Such a small number of them were made, only 17, and it was at a time when Porsche was trying to figure out racing.
The 540 is a celebration of Porsche's first attempt to build a competition car, and what competition is meant for the automobile is immense. This car really had an impact for Porsche as a brand. Without the America Roadster, you obviously don't get to the Speedster, and ultimately, in conjunction, the 550 RS Spider.
The Porsche brand is one that engenders more excitement, more loyalty, more personal enthusiasm than maybe any brand in the world.
I think it's important to remember the beginning of every story, so we have context of where we came from and where we're going. Porsche really started out as an engineering firm.
It evolved from a design shop started in 1930 that grew out of Ferdinand Porsche's experience in the first 30 years of the 20th century, working for all the major German manufacturers.
Porsche was such a genius as an engineer, and he did things for Auto Union, Mercedes-Benz, Grand Prix cars prior to the outbreak of World War II. He took many of his design concepts over the last decade and applied them to a practical, affordable people's car known as the Volkswagen.
The war came along, he became part of the German war machine.
After the war, and he was imprisoned by the French, that's when his son, Ferry Porsche, steps in and leads the company with his sister.
And they decided to put their name on a car.
And that's when Ferry started with his first series of Porsches, taking the Volkswagen concept of the engine behind the rear axle and aerodynamics and simple production procedures. And those cars are made in a sawmill in Austria. And those cars are typically called a Porsche 356 Gemüt. It really was the transition and cross-pollination of Volkswagen into Porsche's now own family product. From the onset, you could tell that Porsche was something different.
These brilliant marketers, Johnny von Neumann, Max Hoffman, knew the American market would want exotic European luxury and sports cars. Max Hoffman was an Austrian who had been in the car business in Europe before the war. As a Jewish person, he decided to leave Germany in the late 30s, came to the United States.
He consigns all these famous automobile personalities and manufacturers to give him the rights for distributorship. His initial meetings of him becoming a distributor for the United States, Dr. Porsche feels him out to say, how many cars, just 356 split window, do you think you can sell? And he goes, I think I can sell 6 of these a month. And Dr. Porsche is blown away because he's thinking, I thought you'd only sell 6 to 8 a year. And he goes, if I only sell 6 to 8 a year, I'm not interested. So he convinces Porsche that he'll sell 6 to 8 of these a month, and he does. And so their whole cash inflection and beginning of being successful starts with Hoffman and the relationship they have selling these first production model, the split window coupe and cabriolets in America. John von Neumann was the equivalent of Max Hoffman in California, a distributor, a dealership. He owned Competition Motors.
He became the West Coast distributor while Max became the East Coast distributor. And between the two of them, they cultivated the market. You gotta take your hat off to them for doing what they did back then when none of this was proven. They're an important part of the history of the brand in America.
The American market after the war was flush with cash, and racing was growing exponentially. Hot rodding and racing was all in the American blood from the get-go. Guys that are at the track that were not aware of Porsche are all of a sudden seeing these cars show up to races. And even the ones that aren't winning, they're seeing the guys having a good time and they're driving home.
The Porsche brand stood out for quality, and racing helped with reputation, and it created a lot of momentum.
So it's really pertinent because John von Neumann takes a Gammond coupe at the time, and it's an aluminum body car, and he sees the potential of it being even more competitive. And so he takes and completely saws off the roofline of the car, taking it from a cabriolet to a completely roadster format, not even with the windshield. It was all about getting weight off the cars. It was all about lightweight. And it just shows you that he was pushing the envelope in California specifically of what these small cars from Germany could do. And everyone took notice. He was winning races. In today's context, it's hard for us to remember how big of a deal to make headlines. You had to win on Sunday so you could sell on Monday. That's what ultimately led to Porsche sales. Max Hoffman approaches Porsche and he pitches them specifically on the need and demand of a purpose-built race car. He wants it to be a roadster. He wants to be able to take the bumpers and the windshield off to eliminate, close to 150 pounds. And he wants this thing to be able to be driven to the track, easy maintenance, put the bumpers and windshield back on and drive it home. And that's this whole concept that he proposes to Dr. Porsche. It was a proposition that Porsche couldn't deny or refuse. Late October 1950, that's when Erwin Commenda, head body designer, clay modeler Hans Klee, and then this other guy, Karl Raab, who's the chief engineer, penned the America Roadster. Porsche really starts producing the car in a very quick manner. And I think it shows the adaptitude and ability of Porsche to make a very focused thing for a market that was evolving so quickly. The America Roadster is a pivotal model, and there's not much known about it. Porsche never formally cataloged the car.
I studied about America Roadsters and learned I didn't really know about them before then. I'd seen Cam's car and didn't realize that such a small number of them were made.
From 1950, from that initial drawing to 1952, only 17 cars were produced. So it is its own nomenclature. It is a Type 540. Technically, it's an aluminum sport roadster, and its nickname was the America Roadster because the majority of them, if not all of them, came to North America. The distinguishing feature is this roadster body. It's made out of aluminum. The purpose of the design was all about lightweight. One of the features of the America Roadster and also the Speedster is the detachable windshield. With the A-pillar, you can remove a Speedster and Type 540 America Roadster windshield off the car in the A-pillar. Where in a cabriolet, it's a structural part of the body. It was all about practicality, again, going back to Porsche's motto, form and function. If you took this whole beautiful body, this coach-built aluminum body off, you would have a 356 cabriolet chassis with all 356 drivetrain. A very competitive package because you took the success and the formula of the 356, already a proven thing, and you're just putting a bespoke, lighter body on it. So combining two good things, but with this special built competition motor, the 528 engine. It's a roller crank, a Hearth roller crank, and has bigger Solex carburetors, producing 70 horsepower with a higher compression ratio. It's basically a derivative, an evolution of that Volkswagen unit of an air-cooled engine. Swing axles, independent suspension. At this time, they were using a special Fitch and Satchel shocks. They built 16 aluminum cars, and they built one last steel body car.
Porsche evidently was very rigorous on its vendors. Gave Hoyer Glazier a tight budget, and to try to reduce labor costs, they decided to make a steel one. And right after that was made, the company went bankrupt. So the 17th and only steel body became the last America Roadster.
This is the 9th of the 16 aluminum cars built, and it's the last of the first series. And one of the definitive features of these first series cars is a higher rear end of a boat tail. The fender lines have a more round shape to them. You can see how dramatic it is in the front. And they have a lower bumper placement, where the Series 2 cars were aluminum cars that had a lower partial shelf back here, longer cockpit, and more squared off edges on the fender lines and a higher bumpers. The first 4 cars had a single grille. The next 5 cars featured the double grills to create more cooling in the engine compartment. And in the Series 2 cars, by lowering this rear section of the car a little bit lower and squaring it off, that also allowed airflow to come into. So they're making adjustments in production to aid in the cooling of the engine. And then the third series is that one and lonely steel-bodied car. So in effect, 3 series within the America Roadster production. It's this lovely presentation of coachwork. You have this beautiful boat tail. You have this sweeping design down the sides. And yet it's a competition car. It's this like elegant competition car. And then they go straight from this to the 550 Spider and of course the Speedster, which are 2 different avenues to go. But this is the archetype for the Porsche design race car language, right? But it's different than anything they ever did before or after. In this particular car, von Neumann takes delivery and sells it to John Crean, and it instantly goes racing. This car only has 1 year where it just races everywhere in the California scene. John Crean, he's always in 2nd place or 3rd place to John von Neumann, who's driving that Gamoon Special. But at the same time, he's loaning the car to John's stepdaughter, Josie von Neumann, who was a natural and really gifted race car driver. In the 4 races that she does in this car, she wins. She ended up being so good, she was allowed to race in some of the men's races.
There were a cadre of women racers back in the day. You got to admire them. Josie von Neumann and others, folks who had a need for speed, wanted to mix it up and go wheel to wheel.
She was really a femme fatale. She proved herself in categories in every leader displacement, but showed early on that this little competition America Roadster was a powerful package. We have great pictures of that car racing at Torrey Pines with Josie von Neumann and then John Crean. And so it's documented that John Crean blows the engine like twice. And on the last time, he tells John von Neumann, sell the Roadster, I'm done with racing. And so John von Neumann's prepping this specific car for this really talented driver, Jack McAfee. And Jack takes this thing and just starts winning. And the one thing he says is that was the first car that he ever drove with real brakes. He said he could outbrake anybody in that car. So I think that illustrates why Porsche was something different. In the early 50s, in the early racing scene, Jack McAfee is just dominating. Already with the success of the America Roadster, and not commercial success because it's just a small handful of cars, but the success that, oh, this works. As an idea, come to fruition, winning races, we need to up the ante and build a real serious competition car, hence the 550R Spider. The 550 is a breakthrough product for them. They win class at every major endurance race around the world. Porsche understands that competition, winning, is the best form of advertising. And so this is really the genesis of this cycle for Porsche as the company we know now. And ultimately, there's so much attention to the 550, which is their first race car. But if you look at it from a technical standpoint, the 356 Type 540 truly is their first race car. It's a competition car. The Type 540 America Roadster, it's an experiment to see, are Americans really going to buy a car for $4,600 that's purpose-built for competition? And so they refined this, and again, working with Max Hoffman, they pinned the Speedster. It's a much more attractive price point at $3,200, and it's a steel production car, so a lot less labor intensive.
They were on the way to thinking about production volume, lightweight, stripped down car that could be produced in larger quantities like the Speedster.
The America Roadster was the startup seed and then ultimately led to this commercial success with the Speedster, which broke it open for Porsche. From Jack McAfee, this America Roadster goes to this guy named Paul Dillard, who was a college student. And then a haphazard way ends up in this guy named Sam Yagi in Japan. And then the first America Porsche collector, a gentleman named Bill Jackson, buys the car. And in 2009, my father and I flew to Denver, Colorado to meet Mr. Jackson. And he was interviewing us to see if we would be good stewards for the car, and sells it to my father and I. Dr. Jackson would become a mentor about collecting, about connoisseurship.
I'd like to say, and I know Jeannie would join me, that this car is really a tribute to our dear friend, Dr. Bill Jackson. who pioneered the art of collecting Porsches. We're now the proud caretakers of several of Bill's collections.
As we became stewards and caretakers of the America Roadster, we realized this car is repainted the wrong shade of red. Then in that time, the interior at some point in its life was recovered in black. And so we're sitting there going, what is really better for the car?
And one of the key was Jack McAfee's son reaching out to us and saying,
Hey, I've got these photographs of when my dad owned the car. As a restorer, when you have a moment where you find a photograph and you know from a data point that here's the car and there clearly is the interior color. I mean, that's just gold. That was the decision point for us to say, let's restore it. The goal was Pebble Beach. My father really wanted to have a moment for the America Roadster, for its time in the limelight to be reintroduced of its significance to the American market. My father enjoyed the competition of concours, but he was more concerned that we had done the restoration the right way.
There's an expression that some restorers have, which is good enough. And those words don't exist here at Road Scholars.
We're a Porsche-specific independent company that focuses on automotive restoration as well as rare vehicle sales.
Cam does the highest quality restorations in the world. And Bob always had the benefit of Cam helping him bring his cars up to this amazing quality level. And he'll search the world for that small piece that's needed to make the car as original as it can be. And that's one of the things that makes it such a magical thing to see the work that comes out of this shop.
We had been faithful to recreating everything from red lead primer to every nuanced detail of maintaining those uneven rivets where the body was attached to the chassis, to having really accurate undercoating in the car, and that's us scraping off original undercoating, saving it, and reapplying it to the car. It was a crazy year. I had to call in a lot of favors.
It has to be perfect. And perfect means not necessarily perfect in today's conception, but it needs to be as perfect a representation of what it was when it was created by the factory.
The most difficult part of the restoration was preserving and keeping the original aluminum body, which were thin from the get-go. And so when we were able to media blast it very carefully, we realized that the chassis was near perfect, which in any 356 is rare, but we were shocked by the condition of the chassis, and the rivets and the original construction methods were all preserved perfectly. So we were able to preserve the car as it was manufactured. When Hoyer Glazer built these cars, they gas welded the aluminum, and this is all the original gas welds from 1952 that we left in the restoration. And you can just see how beautifully they finished the cars, and there's photographic evidence of, again, these classic and over-romanticized 3 to 2 millimeter gaps. They obviously delivered on that, but you can see once you open these panels, you can see the construction methods, you can see the rivets of the aluminum body attached to the steel subframe, and again, these wonderful construction details of gas welding aluminum. This is one of the few America Roadsters that still retains its original body. My father always considered a win just to be on the lawn at Pebble, to be recognized among the best shops.
Just leaving the ramp now is third in 03 post-war sports, the 1952 Porsche Type 540. This was Porsche's first production race car.
All of us in the hobby, look up to Bob and look up to Cam and look up to the Ingram collection as the pinnacle. A collection that no doubt is one of the top Porsche collections in the world.
He took a lot of pride in sharing and saving history. I think the most poignant lesson that my family has learned this year is every family goes through these journeys, life's journey of losing loved ones, and we've certainly lost the patriarch of our family, my dad.
Bob touched a lot of people. One of the things that I admired about Bob was, as successful as he was in business, he always made conversation about the people and the cars, not himself. When he would go to a car show, he'd be happy to tell you about his car, but he also wanted to know about your car. Tell me the story of your car. He was that kind of guy. So the footprints are everywhere around the hobby, the Porsche world that Bob left behind.
Now it's about keeping up my father's values about life, inclusiveness, passion, respect. That's what life's about. And the best part of this hobby, business, journey is sharing the cars and the people. The Type 540 is the triumph of the human spirit. It's a triumph of engineering. It's something that shouldn't work, like the engine behind the rear axles. But the determination of the company, the perseverance of it, it's an inspiring story. The family, all these key designers, race car drivers, everyone that made Porsche the brand it is today. We all can share this commonality and passion for the brand. We're just a small part of the wheel that keeps rolling, and now we're into this new generation.
I think that there's a really bright future for old cars in America. The appeal of these cars is universal, so I think they have 50 to 100 years more ahead of them to be enjoyed by future generations. I know that Bob would be smiling down thinking about that idea.